Hey, good afternoon everybody. It's 12:45, so we're starting our Ask Me Anything hour on Thursday, and this Thursday is dedicated to all things keto. So we're going to answer all those questions. I do have a couple of questions outside of that I'm going to try to get to, but before I get started, I just want to say thank you guys for watching. Thank you for the questions that you're sending in. These are excellent questions. In fact, we're getting so many questions, I might not get all of them in this time, but I will bring them up in one of the Facebook Lives coming up in the future. And also, I want to thank you guys for answering my question about the best time for us to do live events here. We have a lot of great speakers coming through who are offering their knowledge for free, and we want to make sure that it's accessible to you. We want to make sure it's at a time that is best for you, so we do have a little bit of a poll going. We're asking what's best, Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening for Dr. Chi coming in April, or if there's a night of the week or a time of the week that is ideal and the best time that you're ready to go get some free knowledge from these amazing people that are so generously giving their time. Okay, and one last thing before I jump in. My new favorite thing I want to share with you guys, saffron in coffee. We didn't put the whole pack in, but saffron, I'm going to put a little link below on all the amazing benefits of saffron, but it actually is really good in coffee. So check it out, maybe give that a try. I will put a link but show you how much it can improve your mood. We had this actually in our cheer box from the Strong and Health box, subscription box services over the holidays to help people enhance their mood. It actually has outperformed Prozac in a lot of interesting studies. So check out saffron, maybe try it in your coffee. I don't know, maybe you'll love it. Okay, so lots of questions about keto, and so I'm gonna jump into those, and a lot of people asking me what I eat on a daily basis, and I'm gonna go through that more regularly, showing people what I have eaten today. I do start with some bulletproof coffee. The next question is always, what is that? That's where I put some butter, some grass-fed butter, a little bit, a pinch of salt in my coffee in the morning to give me my fats right away in the coffee. I usually follow that up with just a very small handful of blackberries, raspberries, or blueberries, or maybe just like one or two of each of those. That's usually gonna be the beginnings of my day with a handful of nuts and seeds. Today is Thursday, so Thursday is the days that I eat nuts and seeds that start with a P. So I will eat peely nuts, I will eat pumpkin seeds, and I'll eat pecans today. That's just the way that I remember, so that I'm getting a good variety of not only fibers, but also micronutrients throughout the week. So I'm gonna go into the peely nuts a little bit more today because they're gonna ring true for a lot of the things that we're getting asked about. So the first question we have is, at the keto meeting, we advised that people should be eating less than 25 net carbs per day, and we also stated that you should be eating between 7 to 10 cups of leafy greens every day. When I reviewed the net carbs in 1 cup of spinach, Brussels sprouts, kale, and beet greens, I found it would be rather difficult to eat 7 to 10 cups while staying under the 25 net. Very good, actually very interesting. So when you do look this up, you're gonna see that if you're going for 5 cups, you're gonna be getting close to that 25 mark on some of these vegetables. I don't think anybody's gonna be eating 5 cups of Brussels sprouts, but 5 cups of spinach is not gonna be an issue. In fact, my lunch just now was guacamole with a spinach salad and salmon on top to make sure that I was getting all of that potassium in there and the other micronutrients. So let's talk about this 7 to 10 cups. And maybe I was overreaching with 7 to 10 for some people. What I'm trying to give people is a range. And the important thing to remember, and I went over this at the talk, is that everybody has a different height, a different weight, a different emotional state, but especially this height thing and size thing we have to be respectful of. So we have this mark of 25 grams net carbs. Does that apply to every human out there? Absolutely not. Somebody who is 4 inches taller than me is going to be able to take more than that. Somebody who's 4 inches shorter than me is going to be allowed less than that. So I typically think that is somewhere in the average range is 25 grams net carbs. And actually you can go to the upper limits. I try to give people that low threshold to see where they're going to get close to it. You can still get up to 30 net carbs and be fine, and maybe even more depending on how big you are. So when I say 7 to 10 cups, I'm thinking smaller people closer to 7, 10 cups closer to bigger people. However, now that you've actually tried it, and I'm really, really impressed that people did actually try to do that, I find that there's this human error thing in there, and when I tell people 7 to 10, they usually land somewhere between 3 to 5 for the day. So actually, let's try to get it a little higher, but 5 to 10, somewhere in there, is gonna be a good sweet spot based on how big you are. So go for the smaller amount, and don't be too concerned about getting over that 25 threshold, because the vegetables are so important. If it's spinach or broccoli or cauliflower, just make sure that you're not going for 100 net carbs with those. Just get it in there because you really need those nutrients. Because we specifically need that vitamin, that potassium, okay? So is putting 2 cups into a smoothie acceptable? Absolutely. That is, as long as you're putting the whole vegetable in there, you want to make sure you're getting the fiber with all the micronutrients. Juicing is not something that I'm encouraging people to do because that will actually get you the sugar quicker and the fiber won't slow that down. So try to keep it in its whole state as best as possible. And no, you weren't missing anything there at all. You did a great job with that question. Is Swiss chard a good substitute for beet greens while on keto? And that's a really good question. I think we answered this a little bit before, but I want to say absolutely. If Swiss chard is what you have available to you, do it. Do what is available to you in these whole foods. Always try to get a little variety. Beet greens are really good in a specific nutrient you're going for, but it is in the Swiss chard, so please just get that whole food in there, and that should be helping you out a lot. Next question is, can we eat unsweetened chocolate, like dark chocolate that is nutritional? Thank you for the quotation marks in there, and they're actually appropriate quotation marks. So cocoa, it can have a lot of health benefits, and there's a lot of clarifications I would have to do on that. But just to keep the answer simple, putting a little cacao powder into your smoothie with no sugar is actually really not a bad thing. There's a lot of really good health benefits for that. In fact, one of the things that we tend to give out here as treats is this little thing called Choco Perfection. And in this, you're actually getting erythritol to sweeten this, and we talked about erythritol as one of the sweeteners that are okay, and you're getting 3 grams of fiber in this chocolate. So sometimes a little bit like this can actually be okay for you if you're looking for something to satisfy that cocoa taste. And I already got a hand reaching out for that chocolate. Okay, can we have black bean pasta? Good question. I typically like to talk about black beans and how great they are because they're such a great source of the potassium, the magnesium, and the fiber, but while you're in keto, they're going to be too high in carbs. So that is going to be something you're going to want to cycle off of while you're doing keto. Bring them back in when you come out of keto. In 1 serving of black bean pasta, we're looking at 15 to 16 net carbs. So that's really pushing the upper limits, and that's going to limit your ability to eat all the vegetables that I want you to be eating while you're in keto. So please choose the vegetables over the black bean pasta. Okay, what do I need to be cognizant of with this keto reboot with 1 kidney? You mentioned having to eat asparagus every day. What else and how much asparagus? Awesome question. So asparagus every day is just a good idea. In general, it's going to help your microbiome. It's going to give you fibers. It's going to help nourish your kidneys. That's really great. But just a handful is always the rule when people are asking me, what's the amount? Again, because we have different people in different sizes. I have some people whose handful would be twice the size of mine and some who's a lot smaller. So use that handful as a great measuring device for you as an individual, whatever that's going to be. The most important to think about for the kidney aspect of this, and believe it or not, there's a lot of research, and I can definitely explain this in greater detail if you'd like, as to why keto is very good for the kidneys. Getting the carbs down is very helpful for kidney function. And in fact, there are a lot of things that you're going to be removing that are going to be dangerous to the kidneys that are going to help. Now, one of the things I really want you to think about, though, is that potassium. Potassium is super, hyper important for kidney function. I think it's been estimated that we get about sodium to potassium should be in a ratio of about 4:1 for a healthy functioning body. And we tend to, as Americans, get 4 parts sodium to 1 part potassium. And so that obviously creates a lot of issues, and we have a lot of kidney concerns out there. One of the main things that I would rule out before going any further is just, are you getting sufficient potassium? And that potassium is going to come from those dark leafy greens, so from your spinaches and your kale and all of those. But also you're going to get some potassium in your salmon, in your cod. Look these up, you're going to find some potassium in them, and that's fantastic. And as I was going through what I eat today, my peeling nuts, which is going to be my afternoon snack, this serving size gives me, well, what they claim to be 25% of my daily need for that. So that is not a bad deal. We're going to want to make sure that we're getting all of our nutrients in there in every amount. So make sure you're looking at what you're getting out of your nuts and seeds too to calculate that. So potassium is the answer. Okay, does weather have an effect on the gut? Now this isn't a keto specific question. And I'm going to need a little more clarification on that question because, of course, your body is responding to all the stimuli that's going on. And when it is hotter, your body's going to need different things to respond appropriately. When it's colder, same thing. So please give me a little more clarity on exactly what you're asking about that. Can I have canned green beans while I'm on this? Now, green beans are actually pretty low on that net carb count. So green beans can be a part of this in an appropriate amount. And what is that? It's a handful, right? But canned, of course, fresh is always better. And if you're gonna do canned, I would always suggest that you're getting organic, BPA-free cans, because we gotta stay away from those BPAs. Those can be a real issue. And overall, a lot of the things that we have to be concerned about is this organic versus non-organic, because we want to keep the chemicals out that are going to be mimicking estrogens and causing more damage to your kidneys, for example. If you're eating vegetables that have been soaked in pesticides, that is going to take its toll on your kidneys. So potassium, number one for those kidneys. Number two, make sure you're not throwing any pesticides into this equation, because that will create a little harder work for your kidneys. Okay, how long should I wait to use a test strip, and where can I get them? You can get keto testing strips online. We actually have some here in the office, and I think you can pick them up at every pharmacy that there is. And I would wait probably 3 to 4 days before you even start testing, because usually it takes about 3 days for most people to shift into it if they're doing it appropriately, depending on whether they are fasting or not. So I would wait at least a good 3 to 4 days before doing that. And then I have a question here about a protein. It's Vital Proteins Collagen Peptides. I typically add 2 scoops to my morning coffee. Is this okay to continue on keto? Unfortunately, I can't really see the carb count on here, but I don't think it's very high, so that doesn't really give me any bother about adding that in there. Collagen peptides can be very helpful. I would want to take a closer look at this. Unfortunately, this didn't come very clear, so maybe I'll look at the email and take a closer look. And or after keto, sure, not a problem. Is it just a waste of time or money? Now that is a good question. And that's a really good question, actually, because I think we tend to look for all of these individual parts and when we're supplementing, and so we think we need to get this one and this one and this one. And I would say 9 out of 10 times when people bring in all of their supplements for me to look over, they are duplicating and triplicating many of these things and actually getting way too much of one nutrient than the other. So really be careful in looking at that. So when it comes to this, I think you should be able to get most of this from food, honestly. So there is a benefit to do some of these things some of the time. This is not something that I put into my daily regimen. So let me answer it that way. So, and that, with that light on it, I don't think it's worth my time and money to be putting that in there. Right now, I reserve the right to change my opinion in the future depending on what happens. Okay, now we have a question about migraines, and I do want to answer this because I think migraines are really something that so many people are suffering from and absolutely need some relief from. My last client of the day yesterday, her whole life has turned around because she was able to understand the things that were addressing it and creating it, and understand the things that she was needing to help keep her away from it. She has been migraine-free for over 2 years now. She was going to get an electronic device put in her brain to stop her from having these migraines, and she tried everything on the market. And in fact, there is a pharmaceutical company out there that is super proud because they just came out with a medication that is reducing the amount of migraines on the average of 1 per month. So honestly, migraines, when it comes to their connection to your diet, there is a huge connection in many ways. And so this person wants to know, could a migraine last for months, and does the pain stay only on one side of the temple and go down to the jaw? So, great question. I do not like to give diagnoses of any sort. In fact, I don't give diagnosis because I don't, first of all, I just don't think it's valuable in a lot of cases, and it's not within my scope of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to figure out what's missing from this equation that can help the body correct it on its own. So when it comes to migraines, I have, only from my clinical experience can I state that I know a lot of people that have had them last for many weeks in a row. Potentially I could see how that could happen for months. I honestly, and I don't mean to say this in a mean way, it doesn't interest me in whether it's a migraine or not. You have pain, and what we want to do is get rid of the pain. So I don't care if it's migraine or if it's cluster headache or whatever it is. I want to figure out what's your body missing or what's coming in here that's causing your pain so that you can get back to living your life normally. And I can understand how that could go down to the jaw. I can say this, if it's one side or the other, Chinese medicine would suggest that that's giving us a hint as to what part of your body is having a weakness. So a lot of times the right side can be associated with fat digestion because your liver and gallbladder is on this side. That's one of the things to think about. Look into that. Figure out what's going on with your fat digestion. If it's the other side, it can be stomach and pancreas because those are on this side. Just something to take into consideration, and it just gives you a little information to help you be a better detective when it comes to your health. Okay, actually, I think that's all these questions. I got 2 more I'm going to jump in real quick. Do I know anything about autophagy? A Nobel Prize topic about aging, chronic disease, and inflammation. And yes, if you've watched any of my videos, I've talked about autophagy quite a bit. And I do think it's an amazing thing for us to understand the power of autophagy. And what autophagy is, it is that cellular recycling. It's taking the sick and dead and dying parts of the cells and having your cells be able to clean those up. This autophagy is increased quite a bit. There's a lot of foods that will help with it, but mostly when you're fasting. And so we do talk about intermittent fasting when we're going into keto. It does help get you there a little faster. So I would love to talk much longer at another time, because we're running a little low on time here, about fasting and autophagy. I will tell you this, it goes up 300% usually, they say, after about 24 hours of fasting. So there is a lot of value to considering that. And a lot of history of understanding that. But yes, autophagy is definitely something worth looking into, understanding and realizing that it can be a big game changer for a lot of people's health. And is a keto diet a program for people suffering with thyroid? First of all, everybody has a thyroid. Nobody's suffering to have a thyroid or have thyroid. What they're talking about is thyroid conditions where it's overactive or underactive, or it's just tired or sick or whatever that is. And again, my answer is yes. What we're trying to do is give you the opportunity to remove so many things that can be contributing to the pain and suffering and the things that could be weakening these organs, and pay attention to adding in those things that are going to strengthen it, all the things that it needs. A thyroid needs magnesium and zinc and iodine and essential amino acids, and the list goes on and on and on, all the nutrients it needs. So we want to make sure you're nourishing that when you're doing it appropriately. Absolutely. Now, there are going to be concerns, of course, for everybody, and it's not just thyroid. Thyroid is kind of like the canary in the mine. It is the thing that's going to give you a little information. It's right in the middle of the endocrine system. You still have the pituitary and the hypothalamus above that, and the adrenals, and your sex hormone producing gonads down below that. So this is all working together. You can't just think of it in isolation. When we start to look at one small thing, that's where we kind of lose our path, because we're chasing a tiny little thing as opposed to understanding all of it and how it works together. So I want to caution you from allowing yourself to just identify with it being a thyroid condition. This is a systemic thing going on, and it's showing up in the thyroid. So always understand there's so many things that can be contributing to it or not contributing to it. Okay, I hope that's helpful. If you are finding this information helpful, please do continue to share. We're really excited to be doing this keto challenge. We're getting a lot of great questions and hopefully getting a lot of good results. And we're getting some great feedback and great stories. Please let us know how this is helping you. Keep those questions coming in at info@strongonhealth.com is to email them to us. Some people are posting them on Facebook, and it's probably better to send them to the email. That way we can be for sure we're getting them on the list. I do have some more questions here that I will get to on Tuesday at 12:45. But thank you guys for watching, and have a healthy weekend. No? Is it not stopping?
No.
Fading away. You're pretty well spoken for a youngster, you know.
I appreciate that.
What is that?
I appreciate that, what you just said.
Oh. Well, it would still be a that. Me saying that.
I do appreciate you saying that.
I'm not too picky about language.
I'll make sure that I have